Hello, everybody. My name is John Schwenke. I'm with Porch Light Inspection. Today, we're going to discuss the home energy score and program specifics and the home energy score process and what it also entails for buyers, sellers, and brokers. Before I get started, I do want to thank Western Title for organizing and helping us accreditate this course for you all in the audience. Thank you, Amy Delamarter, and also to Cassie Lacey, who is with the City of Bend. She will be joining us to discuss the City of Bend requirements for the Home Energy Score program. A little bit about me, I'm John, and I've been a Bend local since 2003, so I've been here about 20 years, and I am the owner and chief inspector of Porch Light Inspection. In addition to that, I am a certified home energy assessor, which is a requirement in order to provide these home energy scores. I started my career as a home remodeling contractor in 2006, which led me to specialize in the field of home performance in 2009 as an Energy Star rated contractor. As a trade ally with the Energy Trust of Oregon, my company at that time, Make It Green, was providing energy audits, consulting, and energy efficiency improvements on homes throughout the Bend community. Our work was held to a very high standard with the Energy Trust, and it required detailed analysis of homes, increasing insulation values, improving the ventilation of homes, upgrading heating and ventilation equipment, and replacing water heaters. The work that we did focused on making homes, and most importantly, safe and healthy, but also more comfortable, durable, and energy efficient. So this experience in the field of working in home performance led me to a career in home inspections. And this month, Porch Light just reached 8 years in business serving Central Oregon. So to this date, we've performed thousands of inspections. We've done thousands of real estate inspections, and I've worked with many of you on this call, I'm certain, at some point. Currently, Porch Light's highest professional purpose right now is focused on providing quality home energy scores. And as I'm sure you've already learned, Penn City Council recently passed this new home energy rating policy that requires any home marketed or listed for sale to obtain a home energy assessment with a home energy score. And the seller of the home or the realtor must then share a scorecard with prospective buyers looking at the home and include it as a disclosure in the listing information. So here are the program entities related to the Home Energy Score program. U.S. Department of Energy the Home Energy Score is a nationally based rating system which has been developed by the U.S. Department of Energy as part of their Better Building initiative. This initiative was set up to help provide a model for building efficiency improvements and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions into the environment. The Home Energy Score software is engineered by the U.S. Department of Energy. The Oregon Department of Energy manages the compliance to Oregon specific home energy score, specific to the home energy score. They manage training, credentials, and CCB licensing. So if there's ever an issue related to the quality of what the work that the home energy assessor is performing, you would take this to the CCB or the Oregon Department of Energy. Earth Advantage implements the home energy score program quality assurance. They do that on behalf of the City of Bend and other cities in the state of Oregon. They are also a training resource for all certified home energy assessors in the state. And then the City of Bend, they have approved and written the policy for the home energy score, which will manage the ordinance of the program and provide guidance and enforcement when sellers are out of compliance. Later in this presentation, you will learn more about the program specifics from Cassie Lacey, who is a senior management analyst of the City of Bend. So what is the home energy score? Simply put, it is a rating that assesses a home's energy consumption. Like a miles per gallon rating for a vehicle, a home energy score provides information about how efficiently the home uses energy, which can inform a prospective home buyer as part of their purchase decision. The home energy score tool, which was created by the U.S. Department of Energy, is used in other communities throughout the country. In the state of Oregon, the cities of Portland, Milwaukee, and Hillsborough have had a home energy score program in their community since 2018. And the City of Bend home energy score program is modeled after these programs. So the home energy score report estimates home energy use, associated costs of electricity and natural gas, and provides recommendations to cost effectively improve the home's efficiency. Well, each energy score is shown on a scale. It's a simple 1 to 10 scale, where a 10 represents the most efficient type of home. The miles per gallon rating is a relevant analogy for the home energy score because it is a standardized scoring system that includes all types of homes. So by design, larger homes that exceed 5,000 square feet or older homes that lack modern weatherization or HVAC features are going to receive a lower score, versus a house that is built to current energy code standards or beyond energy code standards, like an Earth Advantage certified type house, which would score higher on the scale. So the houses are not categorized based on its size or age on separate scoring bases. This means that older homes and newer construction, they all end up in the same rating, the same 1 to 10 rating scale. So in this example here, this house scores a 6, which is actually fairly good. But with following the measures or the prescriptive improvement recommendations, the potential for this score to improve is a 9 if those recommended improvements were pursued. What I've been seeing mostly in the field lately when doing home energy scores is homes typically score between a 3 and an 8. And what I believe, or what my personal opinion is, there's no such thing as a bad score. When there's a low rating on the score, what that means is there's an opportunity to improve the efficiency of the house. And we want, and this information is useful for somebody who is considering purchasing the home and improving the efficiency of that home. And in this case, between a 6 and a 9, there's a potential savings of $500 in annual energy cost per year. So what is covered during the home energy assessment process? To obtain the information that we need as assessors to generate a home energy score, we focus on these features. These attributes here: number of stories of the house is really important. Conditioned area square footage, age of home. The thermal envelope is evaluated. So we look at the attic, the crawl space, the roof, insulation values, if the house has been air sealed, it's drafty, windows and skylights, the foundation perimeter wall. We also take into account the equipment, such as the heating system, furnaces and heat pumps, water heating equipment, duct airflow equipment, air cooling equipment as well. Our assessment process, when we're doing the home energy score, we account for over 70 items of information that we collect to apply to the home energy score modeling software to generate the score. So as assessors, we are data collecting, and we're taking that information and we are utilizing this energy score modeling tool to create the score. We're not subjectively determining what the score is. We are simply taking accurate information to then create the score, and it's an objective process. So what's really important with this process when we're doing the assessment is doing very accurate measurements of the interior of the house. It's probably the most time-consuming part of the process, and it's really important to generating an accurate score. We measure the interior conditioned square footage from the interior, and then we take measurements of the ceiling heights to account for conditioned area volume of the house. And then we take measurements of the window sizes, and then we consider the directional orientation of the house. What we don't consider as part of the data collection process exists up here on the pyramid. We're not collecting information on lighting or appliances and electronics. We're not considering the behavior of the occupants, whether they what they set the thermostat at, or if they keep the windows open during the winter time, or if they heat the garage. That's not considered. We don't consider the number of people in the home. We come across a lot of houses where 2 people live in a 4-bedroom home. That's not considered. We're only looking at number of bedrooms, and we do not consider historical utility information on the house. We don't collect utility bills. So it's important to understand that the home energy assessment is not an inspection, and it's not an energy audit. We as the assessors, we are not performing duties that inspectors typically perform. We do not test or perform testing on heating systems or water heating systems and verify if they are working. We do not perform tests on the house to verify building air leakage. We don't do blower door tests. That's where we measure air leakage. We do not collect information on like I said earlier, the less permanent fixtures in the house, the lighting, the appliances, the kitchen appliances, or other electronics. What's considered is the size of house, number of bedrooms, and there's a default that's integrated into the software that quantifies that information. And assessors also, we do not inspect other areas of the house that are outside of the scope of the efficiency or the thermal envelope. So we don't look at structural components of the house, plumbing or electrical or other types of house equipment that an inspection would do. As an inspection company, for us, we're clear though about these limitations with our clients so that they understand there's a division between the 2 approaches of a home energy assessment and a home inspection. However, if we're hired to do both a home energy score and a pre-listing inspection on a property, then we do have that opportunity to do our best work and do an inspection in collaboration with the energy assessment and provide both services at the same time. So after the assessment takes place, the information collected on the house is inputted into the home energy score tool. This is the software that is provided by the U.S. Department of Energy, and the tool is calibrated to the utility rate for the home for that home specifically, and to the Central Oregon weather. So more specifically, weather, that information is considering the heating degree days, which is a measure of how much in degrees or for how long in days the outside air temperature was below a certain level, usually 65 degrees. This is commonly used in calculations relating to the energy consumption required to heat buildings. The tool bypasses, excuse me.
Whoops, looks like we lost John, but I'm sure he'll jump right back on. As we all know, Zoom is a fun treat for us all to use. So I'm sure he's going to jump back on. Cassie, would you like to introduce yourself in the interim?
Yes, I will. And sorry, I was a couple of moments late. I found myself in the attendee section, and so it took me a second to find the right link. But anyway, I'm Cassie Lacey. As John mentioned, I'm a senior management analyst for the city of Bend and the city manager's office. And I have been in charge of working with the advisory committees and the council to develop and implement this policy. So once John is finished with his presentation, I'll go through just kind of like the nuts and bolts of the city requirements and how we anticipate implementing the program and some of those details. So we'll be able to talk more about that afterwards. Thanks.
Perfect. How long has this been in the works on your end?
So it's part of an initiative called the Community Climate Action Plan that we started back in 2018. So I would say the initial discussion started as long ago as that. We started actually developing the policy in late 2021 and then took about a year to develop it.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah.
All right, John, are we ready to dive back in?
Yeah, sorry, my computer crashed, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Thank you. Okay. So right here, this area, this is the front of the scorecard. And here in this information on the left, this is the home profile, documenting the year built, the square footage of the house. It's important to know that this square footage information is done when we perform measurements from the interior of the building. And there's a discrepancy, what we're finding, there's a discrepancy when we do this measurement with the actual county records or public records on the house. And that this is accurate based on interior measurements. It's not done based on an ANSI standard exterior measurement tool. Here is the assessment date that this is the date the assessment takes place. We want to note that there's an expiration date, and the term period of what the home energy score is good for is 8 years. This is where the assessor is, and this is the contact information for the assessor. This is where we find the score and the home's estimated energy cost based on the calculations of the score. More detailed information about energy costs related to electricity and natural gas. So the typical energy saving measures that are recommended on the energy scorecard that we're seeing when we do these assessments in the field: air sealing the house and the duct system. Sealing these areas sealing the duct system, what we're finding, can improve the score by 1 point or more. Upgrading or repairing insulation levels in the house is another important measure that we see that is commonly commonly recommended here. It is a cost-effective measure that improves the efficiency. And what we're seeing with these insulation and repair upgrades, an improvement of 1 point or more. Heating system replacements is also a common energy improvement upgrade, as well as water heating equipment. In the case of this house, if the homeowner were to pursue the energy improvement strategies that are documented here, so what this information is talking about, the today's conditions of the house. These are the auto-generated recommendations to improve the house. If the homeowner or home buyer were to follow this path, the score could be improved from a 3 to a 7, with a potential annual energy savings of $374. So after we perform the assessment and do the home energy scores generated, the assessor will upload the information to the Green Building Registry. This is a public registry that can be accessed by the real estate professional or home sellers to download the home energy score card or take the information and populate the URL link from the Green Building Registry into the MLS or other listing platforms such as Zillow or Redfin. So here, this is the link to the Green Building Registry. And here, if we go and type in Bend, find Bend, this Green Building Registry not only covers documentation on home energy scores, but it also covers information on other green building programs such as Earth Advantage or Lead for Homes. So there's a filter here that can be where we can just dial down on the home energy score itself. And so right now, this is our community of Bend, and there's a very limited amount of home energy scores right now in the area. But you can drill in, it's GPS located. You can find a house that has a score, and this is where you would download the report, or you can click this link, copy and paste the URL link into the MLS list. So the home energy score encourages more transparency for the home buying and selling process. As an inspection company, we understand that this is information that is not provided during a typical home inspection. Estimated energy costs per year, we believe, is the most relevant information, even more relevant than the score itself for a buyer, because in this world of rising energy costs, it allows the purchaser of the home to consider the overhead costs associated with energy bills. Not only the information that is provided with the utility or the potential energy costs, but the potential for, if energy improvements are made, what that looks like from an energy saving standpoint. Here, so for home buyers, more information about a house's energy consumption. We're getting more information about a house's energy consumption, more transparency with providing the home energy score. It also the home energy score also accounts for home performance and emphasizes this value as part of the buyer's decision-making process. It provides a standardized rating system for a home buyer to consider and compare different homes, and to give confidence that the comparisons between homes are valid. And also, it helps. It's cost effective. By getting this information early on in the home buying process, can help buyers access additional financing products to help or qualify for larger loans, help cover the costs or compensate for a house that may require energy improvements that has a lower score. And from the seller side, an energy efficient home is likely to sell faster. But on the flip side, a house that is less efficient or lower on the scale, it may take longer to sell. That is a reality. And houses that are energy efficient are more likely to sell faster. But on the flip side, a lesser efficient house may be perceived differently and as less valuable, or take longer to sell. It can help. The home energy score could also help a seller showcase energy investments that they've made into their property, and it helps them spotlight any improvements that they have made and accounts for these investments. So when energy improvements are done by adding insulation in the attic, or repairing duct systems under the house, or adding a ductless heat pump, those are largely not considered in the appraisal evaluation process. But with the home energy score, now we have the appraiser has a data point to help consider this equity that is invested into the house on energy improvements can help improve the value and really account for that value. But also this information is a benefit to the sellers. It provides transparency for potential buyers as well on the home's energy usage. That's a benefit. So this slide covers information about what's going on with our utility rates lately and why the home energy score is very valid right now. Utility rates with Pacific Power, which majority of houses in Bend have for electricity, power rates went up 15% January 1st of 2023. And then Cascade Natural Gas rates went up 25% as recently as November. And then Bonneville Power, which is the PUD for Central Electric Cooperative, their power rates went up January 1st, 10%. And so some of you may be considering, what is this going to cost? These rates right here are for Porchlight, specifically for providing a standalone home energy score. And currently we have we're offering savings related to this between now and March 31st, the end of the month, where we are giving discounts for the energy score service, but also if it's added with a pre-listing inspection, we add an additional discount because of the overlap with those services. And we'd love to work with you all at some point. And here's some further services that Porchlight provides to our clients. And I just want to thank you all for taking the time today. Please reach out to me at some point if you have any questions. And I'll pass this over to Cassie Lacey. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much, John. And I think you need to stop sharing your screen before I can share mine.
Okay.
Did we want to pause for questions on John's portion, or should I just jump into mine and then do questions at the end?
I think let's just do all the questions at the end. We have quite a few, so.
Okay, perfect. Let me just get myself situated. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, hello again. Thanks for having me here today to talk about the Home Energy Score program. So as I said, I'm just going to kind of share an overview more of the actual city requirements and what to expect about implementation for that. And I see a lot of the questions that were popping up in the Q&A were kind of in that realm of how this would actually work. So hopefully we can get some of those answered. So first, just a little background on kind of where this program came from. This is a program that was part of the Bend Community Climate Action Plan, which was adopted in 2019. The Community Climate Action Plan is a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions community-wide, which is an initiative that the city originally started back in 2016. So we kind of have this long program around trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions locally. And then we have an advisory committee called the Environment and Climate Committee that they are advisory to the city council, and they are kind of tasked with directing implementation of the CCAP. So that's a group of community members, these residents in Bend that wanted to volunteer their time to kind of help move our climate action work forward. So our climate action plan is a plan that includes 42 different actions. Each of them are distinct new programs, policies, or other kinds of initiatives that the city can take to kind of support that effort. And the environment and climate, so the home energy score is one of those 42 actions. During this biennium, the 21 to 23 biennium, the Environment and Climate Committee selected the home energy score as one of their top priority projects from this plan that they wanted to implement during this biennium, because they just really believe that it is an important part of the city succeeding in its climate action commitments. So that was the real impetus for why we're doing this program now. It kind of came from that advisory committee recommendation. The advisory committee members are appointed by the city council, meant to kind of represent the various perspectives in the community. So we have, this is one committee. We have lots of other committees that kind of focus on different areas, and all of them are kind of free to recommend various initiatives that the city council then has the option to move forward on. So that's kind of where this came from. Like I said already, we've been kind of in general discussions about this program since 2018 when the Climate Action Plan was being put together. But then we actually started our targeted policy development process in late 2021, and we took about a year to develop that. And then ultimately, the council finalized their decision to adopt this program, to adopt the Home Energy Score program on December 21st, 2022. And then we set the program implementation start date to July 1st, 2023. So that's when it will actually officially go into effect. And then I think we can kind of buzz through these next two slides because John already went through them in detail, just kind of my overview of what's a score and what the purpose of the program is. But I think the main takeaway is that from the city's perspective and that advisory committee, the main purpose of this program, as John mentioned, was to help provide transparency to home buyers about the energy performance of homes. And then kind of the long-term hope of that is that it would motivate people to voluntarily invest in some of those energy efficiency measures for their homes by just having the information more readily available and easier for people to understand. And then, you know, with the result of that being that it can help reduce our community greenhouse gas emissions. So I think we kind of already went over what's in the report as well. So I'll skip that and get to the actual city requirements. So these are the details about the City of Bend policy. The requirement, the Home Energy Score program is a new requirement that all buildings covered by this policy being listed publicly for sale are required to obtain a home energy score from a state licensed home energy assessor. You have to obtain that prior to listing the home for sale, and then that score must be included in all listings and made available to prospective buyers who visit the home. The requirement, as I said, will go into effect on July 1st of this year. And the buildings that are subject to this policy include single-family residential homes, kind of your standard detached single-family home. And then it also includes various types of multi-unit residential dwellings if each unit extends from foundation to roof. So duplexes that are side by side, triplexes that are side by side, townhouses that are all side by side, those are all subject to this policy. If anything is built stacked, so you're in a second story apartment and your floor is not at the ground level or your roof is not at the roof level, those homes are not included in this policy, and that is due that's primarily due to just the way that the tool works and what it is able to score and what it is not. So larger multifamily generally are not included in this policy since those tend to be stacked. For a house with an ADU, if it's a detached ADU, only the main home requires the score. We only really need the one home. It makes sense. You can really only have one home per property in the listing. And so it just makes sense to focus on that primary home. My understanding, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but that if you have a home with like a detached ADU, there are certain or an attached ADU, there are certain configurations of ADUs if they're attached where the score actually allows you to kind of wrap the components of the ADU into the score. So the best way to, if you're a little bit unsure, you can get in touch on your specific circumstance. If you have kind of a funky configuration of home, the best way to determine if you're eligible, if which components are subject to the requirement or not, would be one, to just reach out to your assessor because they're the ones that have the intimate knowledge of the tool and kind of what's scoreable and what's not, or reach out directly to city staff, which would be me, for the foreseeable future to just figure out your individual circumstance. And then the other one is manufactured homes are currently not subject to this policy because currently the tool, the DOE tool, also does not work for manufactured homes. However, we have been told by the DOE that they are expecting to update the tool to be able to score manufactured homes by the second or third quarter of this year. So once that update goes through officially, and that's kind of in the works, the policy will be clearly updated so that manufactured homes will also be subject to the policy. So more to come on that later this year. And then, like I said, so we have two kind of categories of homes that are subject to the policy and are not. So I just kind of described there are home types that are subject to the policy and some are not, based on whether or not they're compatible with the tool. And then in addition to that, we do have some exemptions to this program. So exemptions would be home types that, based on the home type alone, would be subject to the policy, but based on the circumstances of the sale, they are exempt. So we have a list of those exemptions in the code, which can be found on our website. Generally speaking, it's a fairly limited list of exemptions that is consistent across the state. It's pretty standardized. And it's mainly sale types where significant financial hardship is indicated. So a trustee's sale or a deed in lieu of foreclosure sale. You can review that list of exemptions on the city's website. And then in order to receive one of those exemptions, we will have a very simple application process. It'll be an online form, or you can get a paper form, and it basically has the list of exemptions. You can check off which one the sale type qualifies for, and then you just need some kind of official supplemental documentation that's like some sort of official statement that shows both the address of the home and also documents that exempted status. So whether that's from a bank or kind of however else that exempted status was established, we would just be looking for that as supplemental documentation. Okay. And then the city is creating a low-income assistance program so that the cost of the score will be covered by the city for low-income home sellers. The income level to qualify for the program is 80% AMI or below. Neighbor Impact is on board to administer the program for us, and Neighbor Impact will actually will be directly providing those scores to the low-income homeowners at no cost. So if you have clients who qualify for that and they want to take advantage of this program, they would contact Neighbor Impact directly. They are going to have kind of an application process and a screening process to be able to enter that program. And they're in the process of kind of developing that now. But the idea there would just be to work with Neighbor Impact directly. They'll come out and give a score at no cost to you. And then the city on the back end will reimburse Neighbor Impact for conducting those scores. For new construction and identical buildings, we've had some questions about how this works for new construction. So there is a pathway to obtain a score for a new home before the home has been built. So assessors are able to generate a score using details in construction plans. So builders can contact, not every assessor will necessarily offer this service, but there's an additional training component, but it's not a huge additional training component. So if you're a builder or you work with builders, they can contact assessors to get scores this way. And in the case where a builder is building and selling multiple identical homes, so if you're building like a new subdivision and there's just a couple of plans that are being sold over and over again, each unique address does need its own unique score report. But the assessor should be able to essentially replicate that score if all the details are the same, and then just kind of swap out those unique identifiers. So if you have two homes that are the same, but obviously the address is going to be different and perhaps the building orientation is different, the assessor should be able to, the hope is that the assessors will be able to provide those at kind of a lower cost than if they had to actually go in and do all those measurements. It's going to be up to individual assessors to determine how and if they want to offer that service. So kind of those rates will be up to them, but that's just something that builders should know, or anyone working with builders should know, that there is this pathway to do that, but that each address does need a unique scorecard report. And then John mentioned this a little bit already, but the home energy scores get uploaded to something called the Green Building Registry, which he showed us. And then online home listings should be linking directly to the Green Building Registry. And that's where people will be able to view the reports. That's where the city intends to, that's kind of the channel that the city intends to be able to use for compliance as well. And so this system can be set up to automatically populate MLS listings for easy compliance, but this is something that the MLS needs to work with the Green Building Registry to kind of opt into. So CORE and the people at the Green Building Registry are currently in discussions exploring this option. All indications are that we should be able to have that kind of automatic integration. CORE has expressed to me, they're still kind of learning about how it works on the back end, but they've expressed to me that they are supportive and interested in kind of setting up that automatic integration, which will make it easier for realtors, homeowners, and home buyers to both be in compliance with the program and upload the score reports, and also easier to find those score reports. If for any reason they're not able to make that automatic integration, then whoever is creating the online listing would just need to copy and paste the report link manually. Typically that's in the, just kind of in the house description. If we have to go that route where people have to do the manual inputs, then the city, we're creating an administrative policy, and we will clearly define in that administrative policy kind of where on the MLS listing we expect to see that, just to give people more direction. And then as far as how the city intends to enforce this program, the intent is really to focus on education as our primary enforcement mechanism. So the program will be a successful program to us is if all homes get scores, or as many homes as possible get scores. A successful program to us is not being able to recoup penalties on homes that do not have scores, because if we don't have scores out there, we know that the program will not be meeting its goals. So the idea is that we will be reviewing listings, and when a listing is found to not have a score, we have created a 15-day grace period where staff will notify the homeowner that they're out of compliance. This will happen with a letter, and then the 15 days starts 3 days after the letter is mailed. The staff will also be attempting to reach the homeowner through other means in the meantime, if they can. So if they can find a phone number for, they may, and that's where they may reach out directly to the realtors, whoever's the listing agent, if they're able to find it. Just to let you know they're out of compliance. And then the hope is to spend that 15 days helping that person come into compliance. So that first point of contact will be making sure people are aware there's a program to begin with, helping them figure out where they can find an assessor, answering any questions. Sometimes there's like an issue where they got the score and it just didn't pull over, you know, for whatever reason, it's not on the online listing. So just kind of getting to the bottom of that. And then once if that 15-day grace period ends and the homeowner is still not in compliance with the program, so they don't have a score, then that out of compliance property at that time would be notified, would be referred to code enforcement. And at that point, it's considered a code violation. From there, it will go through our standard code violation process, which allows for 30 additional days to remedy the violation. And then if it's not remedied within 30 days, it is subject to, it's considered a Class A civil infraction, which is subject to a $750 penalty. The way that this code is written is that before it will be another 45 days before the city is able to impose an additional penalty for out of compliance. So some of our codes allow us to impose penalties for every day that is out of compliance. This one has, with the 15-day grace period plus the 30-day code violation grace period, it's technically a 45-day period before a penalty is issued. And then it would be 45 days after that before an additional $750 could be issued. And then I think I just have one more slide. This, you probably gathered a lot of this from hearing John's presentation already, but once the program is in effect and you're wanting to obtain a score, you can do this now. We just won't be enforcing for them until July 1st. You just need to contact any licensed home energy assessor in the area. On our website, we have a link to an Earth Advantage directory of all licensed assessors. So we currently have 5 in Central Oregon. And last I checked, we have 13 more in the process of going through the training. So we anticipate having a sufficient amount of assessors here. Assessors, like I mentioned, assessors are able to set their own prices. We have been anticipating them to be between $150 and $300, which is what other cities have been seeing. Prices, of course, will vary with the size and the complexity of the house. And so we saw porch lights rates there. So they are kind of within that 300 range if it's 3,000 square feet or below. But of course, as you get into larger homes, like any service, it's just going to have to cost, it will cost more because there's more for them to look into. And the city does intend to track kind of the price of assessments on average, and also how long it takes people to obtain the scores. And also just, we understand there's a lot of kind of concern and hesitancy about this program. So especially in the first year or two, we really do intend to like track the program for like unintended consequences. Our price is getting too high. Our price is getting higher than we expected. Is it taking people really long to obtain the scores? Based on the experience of other communities in Oregon and around the country, we're not expecting those. But if we do see some of those, and we're kind of, they're just reaching levels where it feels like the program is becoming burdensome, the city may consider some kind of intervention to the program. So anything related to that would be a city council decision. So that would be kind of a public discussion in city council meetings about possible options and solutions, with the council deciding whether to pursue any of those. And I just share that because I know that there are a lot of what ifs out there. And so just kind of letting people be aware that the city is kind of going eyes wide open into making sure to monitor this program to make sure it's meeting our goals and going as smoothly as we expect. And if not, there of course are channels to, try to address some of those. So it's something that we, would love to kind of continuous feedback about through the first year and two of the program about what your experience is on the ground. And we will be looking for that. And then last, if anyone is interested in becoming an assessor, or people who are interested in becoming an assessor, there's an Earth Advantage link that shows kind of a 7-step process about how to become an assessor. And this is tentative, but we are considering, we're planning on holding kind of a local training cohort in Bend where Earth Advantage will actually come out to do some in-person mentoring and scoring with like a group in either April or May. To kind of help make sure we have enough assessors locally. So that's my overview of the program, and I'm happy to start jumping into the questions.
I'll help moderate that, Cassie.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll start with you since you just addressed. We had a question about additional grace periods if there are no inspectors to make it in time. It sounds like that will just be something that you'll kind of deal with as it comes.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to deal with those on a case-by-case basis. So it didn't really make sense to define what a grace period could be in a circumstance like that. But if people are contacting us and we're hearing from many people, like we can't get someone to come out for 3 weeks, we would probably do a step to verify whether that's true, maybe reaching out to some assessors ourselves. And if we can find someone who can do it sooner, maybe trying to connect those people. So, but if we were hearing that consistently and our assessors were saying we really can't get out, it's a month, then we would definitely, change the requirements or modify the enforcement of it for sure to address that.
A lot of questions regarding the length of the score. So that it's valid for 8 years. Does that transfer if they sell within that 8 years? Does the home energy score transfer, or does the then seller have to obtain a new one?
No, technically, if someone is selling their house if they didn't obtain the original score, but they're going to go sell it before that 8 years is up, that is still a valid score. So if you bought a house that had a score and then you sell that house 2 years later, you don't have to go get a new score for the house that you bought recently.
If we sell a house without a score in place, does the fine follow the home or the seller?
It follows the seller, not the home. And realistically speaking, it's not very easy for the city, especially if someone were to move out of the area. It's not easy for the city to go track down people who have moved out of the area to issue a penalty on them. So realistically speaking, if someone sells a home without a score and they move away, we don't anticipate trying to go after those people. Those will just be casualties of the program.
And then there was another question regarding for sale by owners. Is this something that you monitor primarily just on the MLS, or will this apply to for sale by owners as well?
So the best channel we have to monitor compliance is really going to be through real estate websites like Zillow and Redfin, because we don't have access to the MLS directly. And so this policy, the for sale by owner are subject to this policy, but realistically speaking, we'll be enforcing primarily using those websites. So if someone lists by owner and posts on those websites, which people do, we would be able to view them. If someone's doing a for sale by owner with just a front home sign, then again, those are cases where it's likely they would be missed by us, but it's not that they're not subject to this policy. They are. It's just practically speaking, we may not catch them. It's possible like a city council down the road could be like, we really care about this program. We want to really like ramp up enforcement. We want staff to drive around for all the for sale by owners and make sure they have them. Like that's technically possible. I do not think that would ever happen. But just so people understand, it's not that they're just exempt from the program because they're selling by owner.
A lot of questions about the scope of this. So is this only within Bend city limits? Is it within the county? Does it extend past that?
It's just city limits. So any Bend city code can only apply to within city limits. So that has to be like something that's been annexed into the city. So even the very few areas where something's within the UGB, but not yet been annexed into the city, those are not subject to city codes until they've been annexed in.
And are there any plans for that in the future for it to extend?
Well, we don't, like I said, we don't have the ability to create code for anything outside of Bend city limits. The Bend city limits will continue to expand through our land use processes as we grow, as we need to.
Got it.
And if I may add to that, Amy, what I would anticipate is there's a lot of houses that have a Bend address that are not within the jurisdictional boundary of Bend city limits, but they have a Bend address, and those types of houses are going to be competing for buyer attention that are against houses that are within the city limits. And so what may happen naturally over the next 2 or 3 years is that that a buyer may expect a home energy score to be applied on a house that's outside the jurisdiction of the city limits, but it is a Bend address. And so naturally those houses may need scores at some point, not because they're required, but because of how the marketplace shifts towards that, the mentality of just becoming part of the buyer decision process.
Perfect. A couple more questions for Cassie, who is responsible for the exemption application. I would assume that's the seller.
Yeah, the seller would be.
And you mentioned some concessions for being below 80% AMI for Bend. Do you know what is the AMI for Bend?
I don't. It changes periodically. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can pull it up really quick because I would just have to write this to somebody for another low income program. So the levels, I don't remember what the AMI level is, but the 80% AMI threshold. So it varies based on your household size. So for a person of one, that's $50,350 per year. And it goes up. So for a 4-person household, that's $71,900 per year. But again, it gets recalculated every couple of years. These ones are fairly updated. They were updated pretty recently. So they're definitely current. And I think they'll stick that way for at least the first year or so of the program.
Okay. And as far as the July 1st date goes, if the home is currently listed for sale and does not sell prior to July 1st, are they then required to get a home energy score?
Yeah, so we have not discussed that particular circumstance. It's a question I started getting recently. I don't believe so. Like as far as the actual requirement, I believe we will only enforce it to homes that are listed once the requirement is in place. And if that changes, I will update you. That's something we might just have to figure out internally. I'm not sure what our precedent is at the city with other codes. Because that's what I would look to determine how we'll handle that.
Okay, and is it the same for if a listing expires and is relisted immediately after that date?
Yeah, I would think if it's relisted and especially if it shows up to us like this was listed on this date, then I think we would expect it.
Okay. Perfect. Now, John, can we move to you for a few questions? How long does it actually take for you to complete an assessment and an average turn time to receive the report?
Well, right now, it takes us an hour per 1,500 square foot house to do a field assessment on site. And our turnaround time for a home energy score uploaded to the Green Building Registry is within a day. But we're anticipating a lot of volume, and we want to be able to maintain a 24 to 48 hour turnaround with a home energy score. We don't, 2 weeks is just too long. It just doesn't make sense for us to wait and process something like that in that time period. So our goal is going to be 24 to 40 hours turnaround time. And ultimately our goal is as a company is to have the capacity to handle 70 home energy scores a month at a minimum by July. And really for us to get there, we have to scale up to it and bring people on to support that. But early adoption is going to be really important in the real estate community. So it's not just like a landslide come July 1st. So some of these houses that are listed in April, May, and June that may carry over into the July listing timeframe. That's when going to be our busiest point. Is many houses that are still listed on the market from May and June that come in July. It's going to be not only are we going to handle all those houses that are listed, but also the ones that are now listed in July. So if I could emphasize, early adoption is going to be really important, not only just for Porchlight, but for any other assessor that comes into the marketplace. They have to integrate it into how they do business in the field in order to really support and not have the bottleneck that is anticipated.
A question requesting some clarification around if the home energy score measurements do or do not include the exterior.
Measurements. No, all the measurements are taken from the interior of the conditioned thermal envelope space. They're not measured from the exterior of the building. And that's why there's a discrepancy that I mentioned with our measurements that are done from the interior of the house that is applied and put into the home energy score that is on the home energy scorecard versus what is recorded through Deschutes County or reported by an appraiser. Appraisers, they measure from the exterior of the house. The assessors were measured from the interior.
Since there are literally no tests that are actually run on the home, does this function similar to a CMA that a realtor would run? That if someone doesn't like their number, they could hire someone else and receive a different score?
Well, I haven't seen that yet, but really if an assessor does their job accurately and what we're doing is we're data collectors. We're not subjectively creating opinions about a house. We're measuring things. If measurements are accurate, information is collected properly and is properly inputted into the tool, the score should be the same no matter if it's me or somebody else from my team or another assessor at another company. It should be as close as possible. It's not, I don't believe that there's going to be a better score by going with somebody else unless they're somehow not being accurate.
And I'll add to that there is through Earth Advantage's quality assurance program, there is a process you can go through to contest your score if you don't like it or believe it for some reason. And we will have details about what that process is on our website, but you can contact Earth Advantage directly and then they work with you so they can do, if requested in that way, they can do a specific quality. They're going to do periodic quality assurance on assessors throughout the program. But if someone is contesting their score, they can request from Earth Advantage kind of an extra quality assurance process on their score. And then I don't remember exactly what the different elevation steps are beyond that, but there will be a way if you feel like your score is inaccurate. But it is, like John said, they take measurements, which are fairly objective. I'm sure there's, like anything, there's always a little subjectivity, and then they put them into the score. And the tool is this complex tool that does a bunch of math on the back end that was developed by building scientists at the U.S. Department of Energy over many, many years. And so because I saw some other questions about if there's no blower door, if you're not doing these things, how is this just kind of made up? And the whole point was that the federal government put years of research, modeling, and work into developing a tool that is meant to be able to calculate using simpler measurements, meant to be able to calculate a score that is not as comprehensive as a full-blown energy audit, but it's pretty good, and it's available for a much simpler, more affordable process, and also a more standardized process, so that it can be available to more people. So it's meant to be a simpler tool, but it's not that there's a lot of work being done there to make it like an accurate tool. So anyway, that's just my additional explanation.
That's great. And if I may say one more thing, if from a customer service standpoint, if a client that we work for runs into feeling like there's a conflict with the score that we provided, we will come out and we will double check or look at all of our information and redo it, the score, rerun it. But we want to make sure that that we follow up from a customer service side to make sure that the score is valid, and then if there's any corrections that need to be made, we'll make those corrections.
Is there a path for a seller to create their own score without paying someone to create it?
Sorry, say that again, Amy?
Is there a path for a seller to create their own score without paying someone to create it?
Well, the home energy score has to be done by a certified home energy assessor. So unless they are a certified energy assessor, then I would think not. They have to have access to the home energy scoring tool to do that.
And how many certified assessors do we have currently, Cassie?
We currently have 5, but we have 13 going through the training right now. And that was when I checked last, which was a couple of weeks ago. And we anticipate having an additional push in the months leading up to the program, including, like I shared, we'll be hosting that assessor cohort. So hopefully we'll get at least another group of people through that as well.
I think you briefly touched on it. Can you explain further the appropriate advertisement for the public within MLS? Does that need to be in the public marketing remarks, or can that be in the remarks that only the realtor sees?
It definitely needs to be in a place where the public can see it, so that homeowners perusing can view it, as well as like city staff really only have the public view as well. And it will depend on whether or not the Corps moves ahead with setting up kind of this automated integration, because if there's this automated integration between the Green Building Registry and our the MLS system here, they'll all pop up by default in the same place. I believe it creates like its own new field for it. And then if Corps, for whatever reason, decides not to allow that integration, it would have to be probably just in the public description. So if we are in that situation, we expect Corps to set up that integration. They have said that they intend to, and there shouldn't be any technology issues that prevent that. If for any reason we can't do that, the city will make clear where we expect to see it. We haven't done that yet because we're not thinking that we'll need that option.
What does the training entail for the assessors regarding how many hours of training do they have?
Yeah, I can answer that. Well, it takes about 2 weeks of applied learning and training. There's pre-requirements for somebody to get into position to actually take the training. They have to either have training as an inspector or previous training in the energy field through Building Performance Institute. But there's a roadmap that's specific to help somebody get the prerequisites needed to get into the training process. And then there's a simulation training that takes place where it's almost like a video game of somebody doing a house through a virtual platform. And that can take somebody, I think, two weeks really of 4 hours a day going through it. It's really a matter of how much time somebody has to apply themselves to do it. So it's not very long as far as training goes, in my opinion. And then there's a remote mentoring session that happens where somebody actually does a assessment on in the field on a house, and that is quality. There's a mentor that is with that person before they get passed through accredited. So, yeah, it takes about 2 weeks.
Well, for the sake of time, I think we'll wrap there. Thank you so much for your time, John and Cassie. Such good information. There are a few more questions that popped up, so please rest assured that we will be sending out John and Cassie's contact information for you to reach out directly with any questions. We'll be sending out their slide decks, the recording of the class, and of course your CE certificates as well. Thank you again for your time.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks for
Yeah.
having us.
Yeah.
And a quick reminder to do the 2 survey questions, please.
Have a great day.
Hi, everyone.
Take care, everybody.